So let's start with x. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of x from these equations by starting with this one, because it has one x already by itself. Okay? So I'm going to rearrange equation 2. Okay? I'm going to make x the subject. That's how solving by substitution works. And that's fairly straightforward. 7, take away that, take away that. By the way, you might wonder why I put dashes through my z's. That's because when I'm writing in a hurry, my z's look an awful lot like 2's, and maybe yours do as well. You don't need me to tell you that's going to be a bad thing to happen to you if you're misreading your own working. Okay? Not to mention if the marker misreads your working. All right, this is a new equation. I've got it from equation 2, so I'm going to call it 2a. I could call it 4, but I'm going to have a lot of equations here, and I've got to be able to track where they come from. What shall I do with 2a? What's the point of making x the subject? Okay, if x is the subject, now I can substitute it into stuff, and I'm going to substitute it into 2 places. This is equation 2a, so tell me the place where I should not substitute it. Don't put it back in here. You will get something true, but useless. Instead, it's going to have to go into these 2. Okay? Once you put that in, there will be no more x's in either of these equations, and you can solve them just like a normal pair of linear equations. Can you do that? I'll give you a bit of a head start on me. Substitute this into equation 1 and equation 3, 1 and 3, and then see what you get from there. Off you go. Okay, I stalled a little bit. I know some people are still going. Just have a look at what I have done, okay? Because despite how much this looks like, this feels like it's about algebraic manipulation, because that's the bulk of what you're doing. The really important thing is the movements. What is the path that you are taking through this question? Where are you going? And do you know what turns you're taking? Okay? You can see, just like we discussed before, I rearranged 2, so I'm not going to put that back into itself. I put it back into 1 and 3. And you can see, because I've taken the same basis, I've said what I'm substituting into what. Okay? Now, I admit, you look at that, and it doesn't look promising at the moment. Okay? However, we've got good reason to think for a little while the numbers are going to be messy, because these 3 things, they've got numbers everywhere. Things are not going to fall out straight away. When you look at that, I've got a new equation. I haven't labeled it. This is 3a. What I want you to do is look carefully at 1a and 3a. You have turned a problem which had 3 equations and 3 variables, I should say 3 unknowns, into a new kind of problem. What is this problem with 1a and 3a? This is just a pair of equations with a pair of unknowns. This is what we've dealt with before. And in fact, you can see by my last line, maybe my last line slightly differs to yours. Can you see what direction I'm headed in for this? Where am I going? I want to substitute this guy back into here. It looks like it's going to turn into a garbled mess, but let's see what happens. Okay. Sub 3a into 1a. Okay, have a look. What we got? There's 1a. So I'm going to go like this. Okay, have a look at it. Think, how would you like me to proceed in terms of simplifying this? Think. There are lots of ways to go through this. What might be the way to minimize the errors that we can make? Suggestions. Yeah, I am going to multiply through by 7, because immediately that will get rid of this fraction here. Otherwise, I'm going to be dealing with fractions all the way through. There's no reason why I can't do that, but I don't want to do that. Okay? So I'm going to multiply through. You can see, while you're at it, I suppose if you multiply through, that'll get rid of the 7. You might as well expand simultaneously. Okay? So I think I've got my numbers here. And again, like I said, no shame in using your calculator for these, because I don't know about you, but I don't know my 13 times tables very well. Okay, so here I am, and I've successfully turned 3 unknowns, 3 equations, into 2 unknowns, 2 equations, into one unknown, one equation, which was, you can see the progress, okay? One of the things that I notice when students do these kinds of questions, because they do not know where they are going, sometimes you go round and round and round and never make any progress through the question. If you just focus on what's actually happening, not the algebra, not the manipulation, focus on where I'm putting things, you can see at every step I am progressing. What's 70 take away 143? You can do that in your head, can't you? I think. It's negative 73. And you can confirm with your calculator that if you do this subtraction here, I'm pretty sure you get negative 73. Again, that's a good sign. Okay? So that, after all that work, gives you z equals 1. Okay? I'll admit, it is slightly disappointing. You're like, I did all that work, and it's just 1. But at least, with a system like this, because we know it's messy, we will do what we can, and I use a spreadsheet to do this, to make sure the numbers you get at the end are nice and neat. That was all the hard work. Now it's all downhill. What am I going to do with z equals 1? I'm going to substitute it in. Where's the most common sense place to put it? Yeah. If you have a look, I've got two choices really. Either here, that's 1a, or here, that's 3a. Before we choose one, why does it make sense to put it into one of these?
Because they only got 2.
Because they've only got 2 variables, right? So then they're one step back, okay?
You got 1 unknown.
Correct. One unknown now that I've got z. I'm going to suggest this is probably a quicker way to go, because y is already the subject. I mean, you'll get the same answer out both ways, but I'm just going to go straight there. So I'm going to sub z into, what did I call it? 3a, right? Right into here. So I'm going to go y equals 1 over 7, 11 minus 25. 11 minus 25 is... 11 minus 25 is... Pretty sure it's negative 14, which is reassuring, because again, you now have another integer value. Okay. Are you happy with that? Okay. Last bit. I now know z. I now know y. Last unknown. Where would you like me to put it? Yeah, so perfect. Okay, because you can see, save yourself some work. If you've already made something the subject, and that's what you want to solve, well, you might as well use that. So let's sub both y and z. Whoops, I don't need to do that. Into that equation that will make it easiest for us to find. So, x equals 7 minus 2. What do you think? Happy? Okay. Now, just to conclude, well done, you've got through it. Did you notice, like I said, at this point, I said it's all downhill, right? It's all hard when you're still dealing with multiple variables. But as you, multiple unknowns, but as you peel them off, it becomes simpler and simpler and simpler. So if you can get to this first major hurdle, everything's fine from there. Just to complete, if you want, you can say at the bottom, x equals this, y equals this, z equals that. That's one of your options, so that as a marker, I don't have to dig through your 20 lines of working to find your solutions. So if you say that, and that, it's completely unambiguous. Alternatively, something I see frequently, and I also give a thumbs up, is if you arrive here at x equals 4, you put a circle around that, a circle around that, and a circle around that, so that I, as the marker, can quickly identify, yep, you found the right values, and I can verify that quickly. Okay? Does anyone have any questions? Now, just one more thing before I set you loose on these simultaneous equations. Okay? The key is all about these movements. It's not actually about the mechanics. This is what's important. When students have trouble with, I still remember in my first year teaching, I saw a student and he spent 3 full pages like this, because he was just going in circles and never actually successfully eliminating out any of his variables, right? And you can go round and round and round and pour hours into a question like this and waste your time. That's why the important thing is, do you know where you're going and why you're substituting this into this? Okay.